Hey guys, I want to give you my method on leveling up your weapons just as quickly as you could before Treyarch, patched the exploit, um, the exfil exploit for leveling up your guns. Because now they pretty much cut the zombies in half, but maybe even over half, who knows. So you can't spawn as many zombies and farm the exfil zones to level up your weapons. But my method is going to be kind of alluding to an infinite wave of zombies to a point where I think the XP does stop, but you still can get a lot of XP out of your weapons. So what I normally do is just play as normal and, do contracts, level up your gun. If you have access to the rare ether tools to level up your weapon to blue instantly, I recommend you bring one of those. If you have pack-a-punch crystals, feel free to use those, but it might be better to not bring them and just bring a tool just to get your gun to blue rarity instantly. Just do contracts and work your way through the pack-a-punch levels, get it to 1 and then 2. While you're doing those contracts, you're getting XP for your gun. So you're doing the game normally, you're playing the game normally, but you're also working your way to powering up your weapon, because my method is also, just playing the game normally, but it also requires you to do the first act story mission where you need to exfil Dr. Jansen. And now that they finally patched the exfil glitch, the one where if someone exfils into a story mission, it doesn't take everybody with them. So it's safe to do this now. But definitely give this a shot. It kind of requires you, like I said, to get your gun to blue, pack a bunch too, because the story missions are always in tier 2 zone. So if you want an easier time doing this story missions and trying to leveling up your guns there, you need to get it to pack a punch 2 and at least blue rarity for it to be just a breeze and you can just melt through zombies. So I played 2 matches to kind of confirm this, but the first match I played a bit into the match until I was still like maybe 10 to 15 minutes left of the match. So I was still playing normally. I was still leveling up my gun and I still made some decent progress. And yes, for both of these matches, I was using double XP tokens. So that also contributes a lot, but this might still work if you don't use a double XP token, but obviously it's going to be much slower, but you still get infinite zombies in the story mission. So in the first match, I played normally, but I was also on the lookout for these little circuit board thingies that you can put into the turrets. Because the goal is to get a minimum of 2, because in the story mission, you're at least guaranteed 2, at least. If you go, the normal path, from start to finish, you will find guaranteed spawns of these circuit boards for the turrets. They may not be in the same exact location, but I know for a fact when you first spawn in, you first get out of the helicopter on the roof, there is a guaranteed circuit board there. At least, the 2 times I got it right in the same spot, it seems guaranteed. If it's not there, you will come across them as you're progressing through the story, because even in my second match, I found even extra circuit boards on the way, even after I got to Jansen. But the main goal is to get at least 4 by the end of the mission. So when you have 4, you get to Jansen, you climb to the top of the rooftop, you go to the helicopter pad. You want to go straight to the turret that's always spawning there and just dump all 4 in, because the more circuits you have, the longer the turret will last. By the point you get there, if you're playing like I did in the first match where you're just playing normally, you're doing missions, you're doing contracts, doing whatever, and you're leveling up your gun. If you're using your double XP token, that's even better. You're already within like the first 5, maybe 8 levels at that point. Who knows, depending on how much you do and how much carnage you're doing in the match. But by the time you get to the story mission, you'll be all on your lonesome. You don't have to worry about other people taking your zombies, taking your contract, and it's going to be super, super useful, because by the time you get to the end, you're by yourself and you're waiting for the helicopter to leave. It's really, really handy, especially if you're doing this solo. I'm not sure how this would work if you're playing with your friends. I don't have anybody to play with, sadly. But if you're doing solo, like most people are, if you're trying to focus on leveling up your guns and doing camo grinds, this is very, very useful for solo players. Because I believe the turret only applies towards the person who activated it. So I'm sure the turret getting all the kills will only apply to that said person. I don't know how it works in teams. Probably doesn't count for the whole team, but if you're doing solo, you should be fine. But regardless, if you do the story mission, you will have an infinite wave of zombies. It just never, ever, ever ends. So you can stay on the helipad. The helicopter won't leave until you go inside the helipad. Let the turret do its thing. It just keeps shooting, and then once it runs out, keep shooting more zombies with your gun. I'm pretty sure it will count towards the camo challenges. But when it comes to the XP, I think they put a cap on it. I'm not entirely sure. The first match I did, I was bringing the Renetti, and it was at level 1 the moment I brought it in, and I had the double XP token. I went to town, I did the contracts, and I was getting XP left and right. I went into the story mission, and I let the story mission play out. I, let the turret do its thing. It was getting tons of levels, and then it just eventually stopped. And I kept going for another, 10 minutes or so, just shooting zombies, and I was getting no more levels. And when I extracted, and I went to check where the level was at now, it definitely looked like it stopped. So I feel like at a good point, if you're doing the turrets, you get all 4 in, you let it do its thing. I think it lasts, over 5 minutes. I didn't really do a count, but if I do a count, I'll leave it on screen when I do this in post. But I feel like a good time to actually exfil is when the turret runs out and it shuts down. And if you feel like it, play a bit more, get a couple more kills with the gun that you're using, and then exfil. Go for another minute or two, see if you can get any more levels. And if you feel like you're at a lull and it's not progressing anymore, just leave, because you might be wasting your time. They might put a cap. I'm not entirely sure, but this is just after 2 matches, but it definitely worked for both guns that I was using, the Renetti and whatever the SMG I was using. Biggest downside to all of this, though, when you extract every single time, you have to watch the cutscene. You can't skip it. And if you try to leave, you lose everything you had. If you don't care about losing everything you had, I feel free to leave the match, I guess. I don't know if you do leave everything, but, the exfil doesn't actually complete until after the cutscene is over. So that's the only downside to this. Other than that, this method works pretty well, in my opinion. So if you want to make sure you really get the most use out of the turret to give you all the XP and just mow down all the zombies at the end of the story mission, definitely try your best to find some, but you are at least guaranteed 2. I know that for a fact, because I always find 2, and in the second game I found 4. And the best thing about it is that you're not doing any exploits, you're not doing any glitches, especially with the sentry turrets. You're not abusing the game. You're doing exactly what Treyarch intended. You're using the tools that they give you without cheating or exploiting. But yet, that's my tip, I guess. Feel free to try it out. It worked for me for 2 guns. I was able to nearly fully level up the Renetti and nearly fully level up the SMG I was using. I already forgot at the top of my head. I don't write a script for this. This is going to be very poorly put together, but I'm recording this right after doing these 2 matches, and this is what I came down to. So feel free to try this out, give it a shot. But if you're not going to do this and you're just going to play normally and you're just wondering how the hell am I going to level up my guns anyway, seriously, just do contracts. If you're playing solo, do the escort missions, because that takes a while and it does spawn a ton of zombies. Do the weapon vault contracts as well, where you have to drill the safe and stay near it, because it does spawn a ton of zombies, and if you leave the area, it will regress the timer, but more zombies will still spawn. It's not going to be as much as the escort mission. You can still delay the time and still get a good amount of zombies spawning, but I wouldn't risk relying on that too much. Do contracts, because finishing contracts also grants you a lot of XP as well. you do one, and especially if you have a double XP token, you're pretty much gaining a level right there. Even holdout missions are pretty good for that as well. Other than that, yeah, just feel free to try it out. If you have any suggestions or if it worked for you, feel free to comment down below. Thanks for listening, and subscribe, like, do whatever YouTube stuff. I'm gonna shut up now.